October, November 2021, paper 2, variant 2. Which measurement is taken using a micrometer screw gauge? It has been removed. Which graph represents an object that is moving with a constant speed? Constant speed, you need a straight line, straight slope. A is wrong. Why? Because it's at rest, right? It is at rest. B, you have a curve, and C, you have a curve, so this would be, both of them would be wrong. D would be the correct answer, yes, even though this question or this graph is technically wrong because the distance cannot decrease. Instead of writing down distance, you should have written down displacement. Okay, displacement. But the distance shouldn't decrease. But this is the only correct answer. In which situation does an object X have a greater mass than object Y? Object X have a greater mass than object Y. Object X is in a larger gravitational field than object Y. Both have the same weight. If they both have the same weight and X is in a larger gravitational field, then the G is much greater. For example, the G is 20 or 30 or 40, right? And Y is in a much smaller gravitational field. It's 9.8 or even smaller. If they both have the same weight, this means that the mass of X is now smaller. We want the mass of X to be greater. The mass of X is now smaller, so this is wrong. Object X shows a greater resistance to change in motion than object Y, and both experience the same resultant force. A greater change, okay, a greater resistance to the change in motion. What does the mass mean? Isn't one of the definitions of the mass the resistance to change motion? Right? It is one of the definitions of mass. It's the ability of an object to resist motion. As you increase the mass, it wouldn't want to change its motion. For example, if it's at rest, it wouldn't want to move. And if it's moving, it would be very difficult for you to stop it. So this is the definition of mass. So X shows a greater resistance to motion. Yes, this means that X has a greater mass. Which substance has the lowest density? Density equals mass over volume. So for example, 1.2 over 1, this is 1.2, 1.5 over 1, this is 1.5, 1.8 over 2 is 0.9, 2 over 2 is 1, so the least density would be C. 3 simple machines are shown. Which machines are an application of the moment of a force? Moment, okay, force and perpendicular distance, turning effect, turning effect. Does this, okay, moving soil with a wheelbarrow, does it show a turning effect? Yes, it does. You have a moment, okay, and this is the pivot. So 1 is correct. 2, is it correct? Scissors. Yes, it does. Where is the pivot? This is the pivot, right? He's applying a moment. So yes, there is a moment. There is a turning effect. How about 3? Screwing a screw. Is there a turning effect? Yes, it is rotating. It is rotating. So 1, 2, and 3 are all correct. A spring which obeys Hooke's law has an unstretched length of 10 centimeters, a load of 20 newtons is suspended. The new length is 36. Can I find the spring's constant? K. Yes, K equals F over X. The force is 20 newtons, and X, the extension, is what? Is 36 minus 10, which is 26. So 20 over 26, this is 0.77 newtons per centimeter. A rocket is launched upwards from the surface of the moon. Hot gases are ejected downwards over a short period of time. Which statement is wrong? Is not correct. Which statement is not correct? The rocket experiences a downward force. Does the rocket experience a downward force? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Due to what? Due to the weight, for example, the gravitational pull of the moon. The rocket experiences an upward force. Is there an upward force? Yes, there is an upward force. Due to what? Due to the driving force of this launching. So there is a driving force upwards, and there is a resisting force downwards, or there is a pulling force downwards due to the weight. Yes, there are. Total momentum of the hot gases is equal to the total momentum of the rocket. Total momentum of the hot gases is equal to the total momentum of the rocket. Okay, let's think about it. What about the total momentum of the hot gases and the rocket when the hot gases have been ejected is zero? Is it zero? Total momentum of the hot gases and the total, okay, hot gases and the rocket, okay, when the hot gases have been injected is zero. Is it zero? Yes, it is zero. How so? How so? Because you have a positive momentum upwards of the rocket and you have a negative momentum downwards of these hot gases. So are they equal, or if you add them up, would it be equal to zero? Yes, it would be equal to zero. Yes, it would be equal to zero. The positive momentum plus the negative momentum would be equal to zero. So this is correct. The only wrong answer, C. The only wrong answer. They are not equal. They are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. So technically they're not equal. Why? Because this is a vector quantity. It's a vector quantity. So if it was, let's say 20, positive 20, the other one was negative 20. So technically they're not equal. Electrical energy may be obtained from nuclear fission. In which order is the energy transferred in this process? Nuclear fuel to the generator? No. Nuclear fuel to the reactor? Generator then turbines, or turbines then generator? Definitely turbines and then generator. A box of mass m slides down a slope again against a frictional force F. Okay. Descends a vertical height d. Which row gives the loss in gravitational potential energy and the work done against friction? Gravitational potential energy, we know that it is mgh. mg times the height times the vertical height. The vertical height, which is d, right? Which is mgd. mgd. What about the work done against the friction? Force times distance moved. Distance moved, which is L. This is the distance moved, so it is A. A rope connected to a pulley system is used to lift different objects through different distances. Which motor requires the greatest power? Greatest power. Basically, we need the greatest work done, greatest weight, right? Greatest power. Basically, we're talking about the greatest weight, greatest work done. So 10 times 2, 5 times 3, 10 times 1, 2 times 3, 10 times 2 would be the greatest value, 20, right? Which equation can be used to calculate the pressure beneath the surface? Pressure equals rho g h, or h rho g, whatever. It doesn't really matter, does it? A liquid is evaporating, it's not boiling. Which statement about the liquid is correct at an instant of time? Any molecule can escape? No. Only molecules with enough energy can escape, and only from the surface. Only from the surface, yes. A gas is contained in a sealed container. The temperature increases. What happens to the average speed? What happens to the total kinetic energy of the gas molecules? The average speed increases. Therefore, the kinetic energy will also increase. It's that simple. They both increase. An aluminum block has a mass of 200 grams, specific heat capacity of 900. It increases from 20 to 110. Can I find the energy needed? Yes. E equals mc delta T. The mass, in this case, we need to convert it to kilograms because the specific heat capacity is joules per kilogram degree Celsius. This is 0.2 kilograms, right? 0.2 times 900 times the change in temperature from 20 to 110, which is 90, right? 110 minus 20. 0.2 times 900 times 90 will give you 16,200 joules. Question 15 is cancelled. Latent heat of vaporization has been removed. Question 16. Which row is correct for the materials of the base and the handle? The base needs to be a good conductor while the handle needs to be a poor conductor. The diagram shows the pattern of the waves. What is this process called? It's called diffraction, right? What about the wider gap? What would a wider gap do? It would decrease the diffraction, yes. which shows not correct for a wave. Not correct. The amplitude, does it have a unit of meters? Yes, we can say the amplitude in meters. Frequency in hertz? Yes. Wavelength in lambda? Wavelength in lambda? No, wavelength in meters as well. So this is wrong. Lambda is the symbol. It's just the symbol. The critical angle is C. Critical angle is C. Which expression is correct? Which expression is correct? Can I find C? Yes, I can find C. We know there is an equation for C. How can I find C? Using what? Using the refractive index. We know that n equals 1 over sine C, right? And we know that n would be equal sine air over sine medium, right? Sine theta air over sine theta medium. What is the angle in the air? The angle in the air is x. What about the angle in the medium? It's z. So basically we're saying sine x over sine z. We can equate both equations. We can say that sine x over sine z would be equal to 1 over sine c, right? 1 over sine c. If we flip the equation, if we inverse, sine c would be equal to what? Sine z over sine x. Sine z over sine x, right? Which row gives the angle of incidence and states whether this is a total internal reflection or not. The angle of incidence is Q. Is this a total internal reflection? Definitely not. Why? Because of this ray. The letter F is reflected. How can I find the reflection of letter F? It would be B, yes. Laterally inverted, left to right. C and D are definitely wrong. Sun emits infrared radiation. Light travels in 8 minutes. Which row gives the correct information about the infrared radiation? What about the length of the infrared radiation? Isn't it longer? Yes, it is longer. What about the time taken for the infrared radiation to reach the Earth? It would also take 8 minutes. Same speed. Which statement about the electromagnetic waves is not correct? Which statement is wrong? They travel at 3 times 10 to the power of 8. Yes, this is correct. They transfer energy. Yes. They travel at 340. No, this is sound waves. So this is the wrong answer. What is ultrasound? Ultrasound, waves that have a frequency much higher. Waves that are too loud? No, too high pitched. Yes, too high pitched. Which diagram shows the electric field between two oppositely charged plates from positive to negative? So A. Which circuit represents the component used to measure the electric current? Amps. Yes, the ammeter. The graph shows the current voltage, okay, for a conductor. Where on the graph can Ohm's law be applied to the conductor? Ohm's law basically V equals IR or R equals V over I, constant resistance, right? Where is the constant resistance? The straight line between P and Q. Diagram shows a circuit containing two resistors, 1 and 2. Voltmeter is connected to the 1 ohm resistor at point X and the reading is 6 volts. What happens when it is moved to point Y? At point Y, it does not read only 2 ohm resistor or only the 1 ohm resistor. It reads the 3 ohms together. So if you had 1 ohm and the voltage was 6 volts, now what happens if you have 3 ohms? It's a simple cross multiplication. This is what we call a potential divider. This is a potential divider. So 6 times 3 divided by 1 is 18 volts. There is a current I in a resistor. The potential difference is V. Which other physical quantity is needed to be able to determine the energy? E equals what? E equals VIT. So we need the time. We need the time. Question 30 is cancelled, definitely. 31, several cells are connected in series as shown. What is the combined electromotive force? What is the combined electromotive force? We just add them up, right? We just add them up. Sum of the EMFs. We have two resistors in parallel. What happens to the total resistance? It decreases, right? Total resistance of resistors in parallel decreases less than either R1 or R2. It always decreases. Diagram shows a motor connected to an AC supply. The circuit is incomplete. Which device needs to be connected between X and Y to prevent the wires from overheating? Prevent them from overheating. Then you need a fuse. Yes, a fuse to prevent from overheating when the current increases. Diagram shows the wire between two magnets. EMF is induced. 4 tests are done. Which tests will induce a smaller EMF? A smaller, we need to decrease the EMF. Direction is reversed. Direction of the motion is reversed. This wouldn't matter. Direction of the magnetic field is reversed. Again, wouldn't matter. Move more quickly. No, this would actually increase the EMF. The magnetic field is decreased. Yes, this is the only correct answer. 35 4 positions of current carrying coil are shown. Diagram 2 and 4, the coil is at an angle of 45 degrees to the lines. At an angle of 45 degrees. Which row is correct? Turning effect of positions 1 and 3, and then 2 and 4. 1 and 3, are they the same or are they different? 2 and 4? Well, 2 and 4 are the same, right? Because they are at 45 degrees, so yeah, they are the same, right? They are the same. What about 1 and 3? Are they the same or are they different? Actually, they are different. They are different. 1 would give the maximum output because it would move perpendicularly, and 3 would give the minimum output or 0 because it's moving parallel. So they are different, and this is the correct answer. Direction of the current is reversed. Which row describes the effect that this has on the magnitude and the direction of the magnetic field? If you only change the direction of the current, what happens to the magnitude? It's unchanged. What about the direction of the magnetic field? It changes as well, right? It changes as well. The nucleus of an americium contains 146 neutrons, 95 protons. How many neutrons are remaining, right? It decays by emitting an alpha particle. Alpha particle is 4 and 2, which contains 2 neutrons and 2 protons. So the proton number will decrease by 2, and the neutron number will also decrease by 2, right? They will both decrease by 2. So instead of 146, it would be 144. 95, it would be 93, right? They both decrease by 2. A sample of americium decays and changes into neptunium. The half-life of americium is 432 years. Which fraction will remain after 1,728 years? Which fraction would remain? So let's see. What's 1,728 divided by 432? Right, divided by 432. If you say 1,728 divided by 432, this would be 4. Right? This would be 4. So you'd say 1 over 4 is the correct answer. Is it the correct answer? No, it would be wrong. What is 4? What does 4 mean? 4 means 4 half, okay, lives. What do I mean by 4 half lives? Like, I will divide by 2 4 times. I will divide by 2 4 times. Or I'll multiply by 1 over 2 4 times. Half. 4 times. So what is 1 over 2 times 1 over 2 times 1 over 2 times 1 over 2? 4 times. What is it? It's 1 over 16. 1 over 16. You have 4 half-lives, meaning that you will divide by 2 4 times. The graph shows the decay of 4 different radioactive isotopes. Which isotope has the largest half-life? It's definitely not D, right? It's definitely not D. Why? Because it has decayed quite quickly. C is also wrong. B is wrong. A is the correct answer. A is decaying very slowly, extremely slow. It will take a long time for the count rate to be halved. That's the whole point of having a very large half-life. The diagrams show alpha particles and beta particles passing through an electric field. Which diagram shows the correct paths? So the alpha is positive and it will be attracted to the negative plate, right? While the beta is negative and will be attracted to the positive plate. So A, should I choose A? Alpha is going towards the negative and beta is going towards the positive. So this is correct. Actually, no, it's wrong. Why is it wrong? Because the alpha should have a very weak deflection while the beta should have a strong deflection because the beta is very light. It could be attracted quite easily.